If rest is good for you, why does it make you feel guilty? So the next time guilt shows up when you stop, instead of pushing yourself harder, ask yourself, what did my nervous system learn about slowing down? Because rest isn't laziness, it's regulation, and regulation can be learned. If rest is good for you, why does it make you feel guilty? You finally get the chance to sit down, you stop working, you give yourself permission to rest, and instead of feeling relief, your body tightens and your mind starts to race. You might hear thoughts like, I should be doing something, I'm wasting time, or I don't deserve this yet. Even when you're feeling exhausted, rest doesn't feel safe sometimes. If this sounds familiar, there's nothing wrong with you, and you're not the only one. Today, I want to explore why rest can feel uncomfortable for some people, and why guilt shows up the moment you slow down. Also, what is happening psychologically and physiologically when your body doesn't know how to stop. So why does rest feel wrong instead of restorative? Rest doesn't feel difficult because you're lazy. It feels difficult because your nervous system isn't used to safety. For many people, rest is not neutral, it's activating. The moment you stop moving, your body doesn't relax, it scans. So you might feel restless, irritated, or suddenly compelled to check your phone, tidy up your room, or just do this one more thing that you need to. This happens because your nervous system learned, often very early on, that slowing down was not associated with safety. For example, if you grew up in an environment where achievement was praised more than presence, where rest was seen as indulgent or irresponsible, or where your emotional needs were secondary to performance, then your system adapted. It learned that being active meant being valuable, that doing meant belonging, and that slowing down meant risk of maybe criticism or neglect or even invisibility. So now, as an adult, even when rest is physically necessary, your nervous system reacts as if something is wrong. Maybe you can recognize yourself in this example. Imagine as a child you were praised for being responsible. You were told you're so mature for your age, for handling things without complaint. So you learned early how to push through fatigue, how to override your body, and how to keep going. So as an adult, this made you very competent, very capable, very functional. But when you rest, you still feel uneasy. Not because rest is unfamiliar, but because your system learned that stillness meant vulnerability. So rest doesn't feel like care, it feels like exposure. Now, guilt in this case is not a moral issue, it's a nervous system response. The guilt that you feel when you rest is not a failure of discipline, it's a conditioned response. Psychologically, guilt often appears when rest disrupts your identity, which means if you've built a sense of self around being productive, reliable, the one who keeps going, then rest doesn't just interrupt activity, it destabilizes who you think you are. You might notice patterns like telling yourself, you'll rest after this one thing is done, resting but also staying mentally on edge, maybe feeling anxious when you have nothing planned. That's because, again, your nervous system is still operating in sympathetic mode, and that's the state associated with action, with alertness, and survival. Your body, in that case, is mobilized, whereas rest requires something different. It requires a shift into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system responsible for recovery, digestion, repair, and restoration. But if your system has learned that slowing down equals danger, that shift feels threatening. So guilt appears, not to punish you, but to push you back into movement. Why does modern life make it even more difficult to rest? So even if you didn't grow up this way, the world that we live in today trains you to stay very activated. Today's environment is constantly stimulating the nervous system. You are surrounded by notifications and deadlines and the news cycles and comparisons and all the invisible expectations for you to be available. So even rest is often framed as productive. Optimize your sleep, maximize your recovery, use rest to perform better. Rest stops being about rest. It becomes another task. Here's another example. You finally stop working, you sit down to rest, but you're scrolling, you're checking messages, you consume content. Your body never fully slows down, not because you don't want rest, but because, again, your nervous system is overstimulated and you're still in sympathetic activation. So when you try to rest without stimulation, without your phone, without anything, it feels uncomfortable, it feels boring, it feels anxious or even unsettling. That discomfort isn't a sign that rest is wrong. It's a sign that your system has not practiced down regulation. So what is your body actually afraid of when you stop? Rest can feel threatening, not because of what it is, but because of what it allows you to feel. When you slow down, there's space. There's space in your mind, there's space in everything around you, so things tend to surface. Fatigue that you ignored, or sadness that you postponed, even grief that you thought you don't have time for, and loneliness also that was covered by busyness. So your nervous system learned that staying busy keeps those feelings contained. So when rest removes distractions, your body reacts. Again, not because rest is dangerous, but because rest removes the buffers. Learning to rest is a skill, not a decision. If rest feels hard, forcing it rarely feels helpful. Rest is not a switch that you just flip on and off. It's a capacity your nervous system develops over time. If your system has lived in sympathetic activation for many years, it won't immediately trust stillness. So you have to start gradually. You need to rest without expecting immediate calm. You need to learn how to tolerate discomfort without feeling that you need to escape it. You need to practice stopping before complete exhaustion hits. So this can look something like sitting for extra 5 minutes, resting without using anything to stimulate you, allowing your body to just fall in and feel heavy in its place. And when guilt appears, it's okay. Don't fight it, just recognize it and name it for what it is, which is a learned response. And just say, okay, this is my system adjusting. So, time over time, your nervous system will learn something new. It will learn that rest does not equal danger. It will learn that slowing down doesn't mean losing value, that safety can exist without motion. Rest is not a reward, it's a biological requirement. If rest feels difficult for you, that doesn't mean you're broken. It means your nervous system adapted to environments that required endurance. Learning to rest is part of healing, not because it makes you more productive, but because it teaches your body that safety doesn't only exist in effort. So the next time guilt shows up when you stop, instead of pushing yourself harder, ask yourself, what did my nervous system learn about slowing down? Because rest is not laziness, it's regulation, and regulation can be learned.